Do you see it on?
Yeah, I just clicked it. You should be good now.
Okay, it's going now. Okay.
We're live?
We're live?
We're live?
Not live.
Oh, no,
We're
we're
on
recording.
recording.
All right, good evening. It's Wednesday, October 18th. This is the Finance Committee meeting of the Town of Harwich. We are sitting in Channel 8 studio this evening. Just remind you that we are recording this session. If anyone in the audience has any recording devices that they plan to use, please advise the chair before we move forward. I don't see anybody, so that's good. I will say that we're sitting here tonight with a quorum, just so I will declare that. Dan Twerk is here, Mark Kelleher, Dana DaCosta, Michelle Gallucci, Bob McCready, and myself, Peter Hughes. So we had 6 of 9 members, actually 8 members. We have 1 short who are here with us this evening. So we'll call the meeting to order. First order of business is to approve the minutes of September 14th. Have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Seconded?
Okay, moving and seconded to approve the minutes of September 14, 2023. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. We'll do a roll call vote. Dan?
Aye.
Mark? Dana?
Aye.
Michelle? Bob? Chair is an aye. So that passed. Okay, this evening we have with us our select board liaison, Jeff Hammond. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
And we want to get some information from him. I passed on to him a couple of topics to explore with us this evening. We'll see where that takes us. It's meant to be an open discussion. And if you'd like, you can sit up here. That way I think the people at home can see you a little better maybe. But welcome to the board.
Thank you for having us.
And you know, we know you've been busy and we've seen you out and about and on TV a lot, so we know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So the first question we had to do with wastewater planning. You know, we struggled last year with the fact that we kept hearing that, okay, we're going from 40 years down to 20. Well, if you're gonna do the same amount of work in 40 years as you're gonna do in 20, something's gonna get significantly compressed. And we recognized some of that work had already started, you know, East Harwich and the Muddy Creek work and those types of things. And so then we're left with, last year we thought, when we looked at the capital outlay plan, that there should be some more stuff in there for wastewater, like in year 5 or something, to recognize when that compress this thing. We also, at least have read in the paper that there's some grant funding that's been made available, or at least, you know, has been allocated at this point in time. So we'd like to kind of get a picture of, we know we're gonna keep going in East Harwich. We know we voted to do the dry pipes on 28. And what you can tell us about what's going on to figure out what we're gonna do in this 20-year period of time. And what the grant money we have now available means to the taxpayer for the next several years at least. I know it's hard to forecast. And by the way, prices are escalating like crazy, and you know, these things, you think it's gonna be $1 and you go out and it's now $2, so that kind of thing. So just give us some background on that.
Sure.
Great.
Well, thank you. And what I can tell you is when you sent me that list of questions, the first thing that came to my mind was, how am I supposed to provide this to anyone when the select board doesn't really have all the answers in the first place? So I hope I don't let you down. I hope I don't let the committee down, and I will give you all the information I can give you. But I'd like to make sure that you all understand that going forward, it is so important to me to provide you all with the information you need in real time to the best of the ability of the select board. I'm 1 of 5. So as soon as the select board gets information, and I was just updated 2 nights ago that I believe there's a pretty long meeting, joint meeting with us on December 4th, I believe. But I hope to have information to you prior to that so that you can do the great work that you're intending on doing. As far as wastewater goes, a couple weeks ago we had a joint meeting with the wastewater commission and Dan Pelletier and several other people, and it was a working session. It was a fantastic opportunity for us to roundtable and get some really get our ideas out on the table and find out where we're going to move in the short term and in the long term. What came out of that was a lot of a real need for collaboration and cooperation between the select board and the wastewater commissioners and Dan and water and wastewater committee and the employees. That meeting moved information to our next select board meeting where we could take votes and put things on the table and have a public meeting. And at that meeting, we discussed the need to file for our next watershed permits. And that's exactly where things sit right now, is we've given Dan Pelletier the ability to go and file for those watershed permits, which, from what I understand, gives us the ability to push off the Title V regulations that are that would be in play right now. But since we've filed for a watershed permit, or I believe 3 watershed permits actually, that kind of halts that a little bit.
Mhm.
So that's our short-term goal. In that meeting, it was made very clear that the 40-year to 20-year is not as big of a deal as everybody thought it was in the very beginning. And me, like many others, we overreact in the short term and underreact in the long term. And I think we're just letting Dana and his crew and the wastewater commissioners kind of find their way through it. And I hope to have more information about all of that as time goes on.
Okay, so in the interim, hang on a second. In the interim, we are continuing to, I'll say, build out East Harwich, right?
Yes.
That's ongoing.
Yes,
When do we see the Route 28 work being done?
it's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have the answer.
Well, some of it has to do with the state, I'm sure. because-
Absolutely, yeah. We were told in the next 24 to 36 months, things you'd be seeing more pipes in the ground, and there would be, I believe, 600 more people connected. That was what came out of that last meeting with Dan Pelletier.
You mean total? East
Total,
Harwich, yeah, okay,
Exactly,
okay.
exactly.
Now, are we still having discussions with our neighbors in Dennis about a joint plan?
At present, I don't believe that's happening right now.
Okay.
My interest would be to open up those lines of communication and have conversation. At that meeting, I actually brought it up when I asked Dan, I said, we have something we can offer Dennis, which is the ability to recharge, a recharge area.
Yeah.
And Dan said, very, very candidly, I don't want to go too far with this conversation right now, but yes, there is something we can offer Dennis and Dennis can offer us. And it would probably be in the best interest of both towns too.
So have we backed off from Dennis, or has Dennis backed off from us, or we've just both taken a hiatus?
I believe it's a hiatus.
Okay.
I don't think either one has shut the door. I believe that there's, at least from what I took away from that meeting, there is a level of interest with our town and with the people in our town who are doing the work to have communication with Dennis about moving forward.
Okay, and the level of grant funding we expect at the moment is?
Don't know that yet.
Okay.
Don't know that yet.
Okay. Because one of the key questions is, say you get a grant for $50 million or something, well, what's the spend rate? And, when does that hit the rest?
And I believe in the next 2 months, we will have that information, if not sooner.
Okay, all right.
And for me, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
for me tonight, my interest is to write down all the questions and the asks, and then try to go get you the answers to those questions.
Sure.
There's a lot of moving parts with wastewater, and for me, taking your questions and then going to the right people and asking those people those questions, try to get your answers as soon as I possibly can. That's why I'm here tonight.
Okay. Mark?
I don't have my hand.
Oh, okay, Dana.
I remember reading that the 40-year to 20-year thing, that basically they were gonna vote at the state. And when they voted it, it would take like 5 years to start it. And then it would be 20 years after that. So we really have all the work we've already done, plus 5 years. They haven't fired the gun yet. They haven't, the 20-year thing hasn't started, which will start 5 years after they start it. So we've got those 5 years, and then we get to 20 years. Is that kind of what you meant, that it's not as big of impact? It's more like 40 years down to 30 years in
Sure.
Harwich.
In real time. So if I may, Mr. Chair, That's exactly right. This is a moving target like nothing I've ever seen, and in the last 15 weeks of sitting in the seat I'm in, there's been so much conversation and changes that are happening every time I ask questions. So you hit the nail on the head. And in 5 years, but I think the overarching theme for the town of Harwich is we're in really, really good shape. Our wastewater progress is in really, really good shape. And I trust in Dan Pelletier and our consultant to keep it going the way we're going, and whatever the state throws at us down the road in 5 years, we're just gonna have to adapt to.
Well, I think the other important point is you continue to make progress. So you gotta demonstrate a track record that says, hey, we haven't been ignoring this, we've
That's
been
right.
working the problem at least. It may
That's
not be
right.
exactly the right answer that they're looking for, but we're working the problem. Can I just ask if Chatham has come back to us with any potential upgrades or changes to their plan that we have to participate in?
They have not.
They have not.
They have not. But I'm now the Harwich representative for the committee there. So I have yet to meet. I have yet to be in contact with anybody. That happened a couple of weeks ago. But my interest was to get more involved with Chatham and find out exactly where they stand. That meeting has not happened.
Yeah, you know, I think way back when Chatham built this plant, its plant, and actually when we were planning our system, the state kind of led people to believe that, you know, houses are gonna contribute a lot more stuff on a daily basis or annual basis than they really do, and I think Chatham has seen, I mean, they've got an pretty extensive system in place now, but I think they're seeing less flow into the plant than they were expecting. And I guess that's the way it is, but you gotta go with the design basis, it says X amount of gallons for whatever. And, so you have to deal with and build for, so.
And Wauquasit, if I may.
Yep.
Wauquasit was asking to potentially purchase more flow in the Chatham if they wanted to, so that was something that was on the table. So like I said, there's a lot to do with East Harwich, but I sit comfortable with, in the belief that we as a town are in really good shape.
Unless I check their zip code is, or their location is still in Harwich, so we get credit for that.
We
somehow,
get credit for,
right?
that's right.
Even though
The
they
assessors
claim
know
they're
where they
still
live.
in Chatham,
100%,
but
that's
okay.
right.
Dana, do you have another question?
Yeah, just going back to Peter's kind of original topic, and that's the capital plan. This year's capital plan had like 2 or 3 years that were blank. Is it the plan to fill that out, or are we gonna?
Haven't got to
Add
that
projects
meeting yet.
in,
We
okay.
have not got to that meeting, and I believe in the next 60 days, I'm gonna be sitting in all the meetings you're gonna be
Okay.
asking all the questions about. But that has not come across my desk yet.
Yeah, my feeling is, and that was the next topic.
Yeah.
On new capital items, if we're done with wastewater for the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's kind of been our feeling, because we have 2 representatives to the capital outlay committee, that committee is way behind in where they usually are this time of year. And not only soliciting requests as to what plans, you know, what projects might be, but also trying to put all that together to make some sense of it. And well, Mark, you and Dan, you're on the committee, so can you give us some feedback on that? You know, as the committee met recently?
Go ahead. Okay, we met today. We have 4 requests for 2029. Golf for the sand traps and everything, 850,000 roughly. Albro House for an engineering study for 100,000. And then police cruisers in 29 under the capital plan. And then ballistic vest. And I think from what I heard today from Joe, by November 4th, all the departments are gonna have in their 29 requests, and then in November, we have 3 meetings set up, and perhaps more, to bring the department heads in to not only talk about 29, but what's on the capital plan, any changes, any revisions. And I think, when we talked about wastewater, I get confused because it's so much there, but he did basically say for 5 years, we've got a planning, you know, nothing big imminently on that, and that's, so Dan, do you want to add to that, or whatever?
No, you got it. Yep.
Yeah, so that's basically it, but we're gearing up right now quite heavily.
Okay, and I heard you mention Albert House and engineering study. Do they have a use plan for that building, or?
Well, I didn't ask that question because it was capital outlay. I think in the finance committee, that will be a very legitimate question. As far as I know, there's 1 tenant there, and, you know, 1 use for it, so that would be The $100,000 is just for an engineering study, so you'd be looking at quite a bit of additional money to fix the foundation, that's what it's for. So,
Okay. Good. All right, so any other, well, you don't have any other items on the plan you're thinking of?
I don't.
Yeah, okay. All right, so more to come on that. When's your next meeting scheduled?
November 3rd?
November 3rd, and then we go every Friday after that.
Okay, so you're just starting to get some traction and.
Yeah, you know, part of it's due to what the department heads are gonna
Yep.
feed back to us, so, but
Understand.
we'll have a busy November and partially December. We've got all the dates marked out where we have to meet with the select board, things
Yep.
like that, so I
Okay.
think we'll be ready. Be
Okay.
intense, but intense.
Yeah.
with this stuff.
Good.
Meeting scheduled for November 3rd, November 9th, and November 17th.
Anything else on that topic?
When do you guys produce a first draft of a plan by, you have a target date or?
I think by the end of November, we'll have all the departments in. I think by November 4th, we'll have all the request-ins for 2029, which is that's the 5 years we have to fill in. And then after that, we'll bring in all the department heads to talk about that and the existing things on the capital plan, any changes or
Yeah.
whatever, so.
Could you clarify, just so I haven't heard any feedback on it, but who is the chair now of the capital committee?
It still is Rich
Rich Larios? Okay, all right, so he's continued to do it,
Right, and we have a new member, Paul Doan.
all right?
Oh, yeah.
He came on today and, quite interesting.
Yep, that's good. That's good. Okay, anything else on that topic? All right, so then we had a new thing that came up last year, that had to do with preschool, and, you know, grants or, things put out, the ability for parents to come in with preschoolers and, apply for some assistance, let's put it that way, that if I remember correctly, we paid directly to the provider. We haven't heard any feedback as to how many people showed up, what the allocations had been or anything, so we're in the dark on that one.
Yep. So if I may, what I was asked, I was asked by a constituent how to take advantage of these funds. And I called our TA. Our TA directed me to the person who would be receiving the applications. That was probably about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and I have not heard back from the constituent who had asked for the information. I reached out today, couldn't get a hold of her, so I don't really have any information on how many people have taken advantage of that.
But did the program start
Oh, yeah.
this fall?
The program, the applications were being accepted for this fall.
Yeah, okay, so apparently by this point in time, X amount of dollars have been awarded, and if I remember right, it was $250,000.
$250,000, yeah.
Okay, and one of our interests is, we're gonna continue that, we're gonna expand it, what's the source of funding in the future? And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that either. I think it's gonna be something that we all need to take a look at and see how successful the program was and if it makes sense to continue.
And I think a lot of it depends on, do we keep down the road of shedding, you know, free cash like crazy?
Right.
So, I mean, that's,
Right.
you can make decisions pretty easily when you're spending lots, you know, you got lots of money to spend,
Sure.
so-called.
Sure,
But as things get tighter, which I expect they will,
Mhm.
that, makes a difference.
absolutely.
Okay, and then the last time we had you other than other was just, also at town meeting, there was an article for improvements to the 204 Cicero Road, and just the status of those, and, you know, one of them was the auditorium upgrades, some of it was windows, if I remember correctly, and some, you know, generator and that kind of thing, so.
Auditorium will be getting seats shortly. That just went through the select board on Monday night. I believe that was for $71,000 to bring new seats into the auditorium. That is on the agenda for upcoming meetings. I've requested it to be on the agenda for Monday night because I have some questions of my own that align, I think, with exactly what you all are asking for. So tune in Monday night. I think there's gonna be some information that will benefit you all at that meeting.
We'll be riveted.
I do think he has he's waiting on a price from Fry's Engineering for the furnace, which is
That's right.
somewhat important because winter's coming up if he has a failure. I don't think, I haven't seen anything pricing wise yet, but
Neither have I, nothing's
hopefully we'll
coming
have
across.
enough time to get it in.
But there are also fire alarm things.
Yeah, he had the fire alarm, yeah, there's, and a generator.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I haven't seen, well, you'd know better than I would, Jeff, but I haven't seen anything in terms of proposals or anything like that.
Nor have I, and you know, I think Carr's doing a great job over there filling the cultural aspect of it, all the rooms are rented. But as I've always said, I think we promised the voters in Harwich that we were going to do something with that building, both in terms of local receipts and getting some information to them to understand what it's gonna cost them over the next 1, 5, 10 years. And I haven't seen anything yet, but I'm interested in asking those questions, getting those answers.
Do we know if there's any significant capital for the coming year on the plan? I know they had some money kind of follow on to what we're doing this year.
He had, I don't have he had some masonry repairs and some window replacement. The only, I think that's what may be coming up, this upcoming year. I'd have to check, I think it's 650,000. But that would be coming up this year, but he hasn't finished from the 24 yet, in terms, I haven't seen anything on the fire alarm or the generator yet, so he may be a little bit behind on that.
Well, sometimes you fund it in 1 year, it doesn't happen for 3 years.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Some of these things take time.
But I think the next things were some masonry work and maybe some windows. And I think for the windows, it's important because it's on that south side, that you do it right because there's tremendous heat load in there. So anyways.
Yeah, okay. Don't mind if I start yodeling or something because of the music out here.
If you start dancing, we're really worried.
Yeah.
One question that has come up, someone asked me, probably at the supermarket or something, someone asked me, hey, at the lease spaces we have, because we rent out the studios or rooms or whatever, how many of those are Harwich residents versus non-residents?
I'd have to get that answer.
Okay.
I can have that one for you in no time.
Yeah, okay, just a curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. And that question was actually brought up a little while ago at another meeting that I was at. And I believe it was like 80%, right around 80% is Harwich occupied.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna get that
Okay.
answer for you.
All right. It's a data point, I guess.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Other questions?
Do you wanna talk about the charter stuff, or?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess we'll take that a bit
Well,
out
I
of
mean,
order.
the part where, I had some questions for Jeff about what they're doing, and we can talk about the charter
Yeah, then we
later.
can take the whole thing out of order, that's okay. I'm all right with that, so
All right,
if you don't mind, we talk
Not at
about
all.
the charter.
I'll answer what I
I
can.
know
for
you,
sure.
made a presentation going back to October 2nd on the golf commission, and, they were
Golf
kind of.
committee.
Golf committee, yeah, it used to be a
Big
commission. When did we
difference.
change that?
86, I believe.
No,
No,
it was a golf commission, I think, up until Leo asked if we were in.
yeah. So, I guess the two red flags that came up for me was, one, this template idea, and I wondered what specifically that meant for the finance committee, if you have intentions of overlaying a template on us. And, the other, this was a charge you had written for the committee, and it seems to contradict what the charter says now. And I'm just wondering if you see that as superseding the charter, or do you see that as you're gonna fix the charter later, and this is gonna become the new language? Those are my two
Sure.
basic concerns.
So let me answer the first one first,
Okay?
which is where do we see the charge for the finance committee going? I believe at this point, nothing's been, there has been no vote on a template as
Okay.
it sits today. The vote for the template will be on Monday night, or at least the discussion and a possible vote on a townwide template for all committees, whether it be regulatory or advisory. That'll be on Monday night. What I can tell you is this: there has been an awful lot of, and it seems to me like I'm like the tip of the spear here, but I'm really not. The golf committee was the first one that came up because of the troubles that the golf committee was having. But on Monday night, that's when you'll be able to hear where the template is gonna go, or whether or not, my last email to the select board was, do we scrap the whole idea of a template? So again, I'm one of 5, and I was asked to begin the process. So that's where we sit with that. As far as the golf committee's charge goes, and whether or not it flies in the face of the charter, and whether or not we're gonna fix the charter later, it is of my opinion, based on legal's opinion, that there is no conflict with the charter. I'm gonna be careful with how I say what I'm about to say, because the golf committee had its special set of unique circumstances. And it was at public meeting last time, so I believe I can speak about it here. We had 2 employees of the town who will not work with the golf committee as it sits because of infractions that they felt the golf committee has levied on them. So I would ask, and I've talked, you can't imagine how many people I've talked to about this. When you've got 2 employees who just won't sit at the table, and the committee is still in place, there needs to be a way to make it work. One of the things that I suggested in an email to the select board is that if we do go forward with a template, each select board member is going to be able to author and create a draft for their committees that they're liaison to. I don't know of any other committee that has the special set of circumstances that the golf committee had. Selectman Howell had some very, very good offerings, and in real time we modified my draft, and my draft came from, some people think I authored it, but it wasn't me who authored it, it was multiple people who authored it.
Did you type it though?
Oh, I did, of course.
Okay.
Someone had to, Dana.
You decided what pieces went into it?
Yeah, of
Okay.
course I did, of course I did.
He owns it, don't worry.
Yeah, I know, no.
Yeah, of
Stand up
course.
and own
He'll
it. That's
stand up for it, he owns it.
As I have, but
Yeah.
there's a very big difference in my mind of people thinking that I wrote it at the golf committee versus I took pieces from legal, pieces from town employees, pieces from town administrator, and blended it all together with some things that I thought were important. And if you watch the meeting, I backtracked a fair amount with the conduct section, with the makeup of the committee.
Yeah.
Sure.
I did watch the whole meeting.
You did, so
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I was open to information and input, and it's actually quite difficult to create something on your own without the ability to go and talk to a bunch of other people who are gonna be voting on it. It's a bit of a handcuff. Nonetheless, Selectman Howell in real time put some very, very good ideas on the table, and in real time we made modifications. Do I think that that's the perfect charge? I don't know. Do I think it's the perfect charge for right now? I do, because there had to be some kind of way to pump the brakes, for lack of a better way to put it, to the golf committee, who was stepping outside their charge. And do I think it, back to your question, do I think it flies in the face of the charter based on legal's counsel? I don't. If legal told me differently, then I would have followed legal's counsel differently. Please.
Just on the legal part, I know that I watched the meeting, like I said, and I saw you guys approved the minutes Monday night.
No, we didn't.
You didn't approve them.
No, we punted. Way
Okay.
too many problems in those minutes.
Yeah.
So we
I was gonna
punted.
say- So, I mean, when it said that, I mean, Mr. McCaskill was asking questions of Mr. Powers on the legalities of it all, and Mr. Powers had not spoken directly to council, but he understood that it complied. You as a selectman
comported.
should be very nervous about a statement like that, because what did council actually say, and what were the questions? And so did you guys come up with a list of questions for town council, or did the administrator come up?
We did.
Okay,
And both the chair and I had spoken to town council. We were the ones who spoke to council and asked our questions to council. It wasn't the town administrator.
The only other thing on that is, just reading the charter, 713.2 just says, the committee shall have full power and responsibility for the maintenance and operation of the golf course. And I don't think that's what the charge says. So I'm just wondering if in your mind, or the selectman's mind, I keep saying selectman, I'm old, sorry. I haven't made the switch yet. If in your mind it's happening, but does it supersede the charter? Because I don't think it does, but.
The charge does not supersede the charter, and I believe that the golf committee is an advisory committee to the select board.
Right.
And they will have maintenance and operation advisement to the select board. That's what the charter says. So that's where they are. And there is opportunity for the golf committee to create agenda items. But the select board will also create agenda items based on dealing with the two employees. Because you have to remember now, if the two employees aren't going to be part of the golf committee's meetings and will not have any kind of contact with them, how are they supposed to know what to develop as an agenda item? That's the real-time problem that I have, because I'm the liaison. If they're not gonna sit, and the union has made it very clear that they don't sit, where do we go from there? So where we went from there is we had town administrator step in as staff, and if it went the way I would hoped it would have gone, I would have been giving them multiple things to look at as we speak. So, more to come on the template, but I sit where I sit with the golf committee charge. It was voted, and that's where it is.
That answers my question.
Yeah.
I know, and we should probably save it for later because it will bore everybody to tears, I'm sure, that this committee, I have some questions for how we proceed, whether there's a template or not. I know that the committee, the Charter Bylaw Review Committee, is working on the charter. And I just think that this committee here should discuss whether we want to make any changes in our section. And we also should be mindful of whatever changes are being proposed for the financial portions of the charter, timing and those kinds
So
of
could I just
things.
ask, since I think we had the right parties here, and I don't wanna get to a long discussion, but at some point at town meeting, there was appropriation of funds to go pay for some charter help, right? Have you ever done that?
I brought that up to our town administrator last week, and from my understanding, the recodification is happening in real time, and he was gonna check with Emily to see where that sits. I know this isn't gonna satisfy many people, but I am doing the absolute very best I can to find out how we can move forward with getting some help with our charter.
Is there a reluctance to go to outside help?
No.
Or
No, there isn't.
Okay.
No, there isn't. I think it's more of a timing thing, as it stands.
More of a what?
A timing thing.
Oh, timing.
Timing thing is a recodification process that's happening.
Right on the website for this selectmen.
Yeah, and I will say, Dana, if I may, through you, Mr. Chair, I think it's important to, in my opinion, how I'd like to see this happen is I'd like to see what happens on Monday night. I'd like to see where the board sits with the template. And your question's a real good one. What's it mean for our committee? What's it mean for other committees?
I was thinking of every other committee, but specifically us.
No, I understand, sure. And I think that depending on how the board moves on Monday night, whether they say, template's a real good idea, then I can ask questions like that on Monday night and try to get some clarity on that. What's it look like for other committees? What's it look like for regulatory committees versus, advisory committees? It's very different.
I mean, the finance committee has a lot of state laws
Of
that
course,
support the stuff that we do.
of course.
And we probably wouldn't be too open to some changes on that.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense.
And we haven't talked about it either, so.
So what I'm doing is I'm trying to get myself educated on all committees. Because when the time comes for me to have to cast a vote on whether or not I feel what's put in front of me by another liaison for another committee, I'm gonna wanna know exactly what that committee's existing charge is, how it flies with the charter, so forth and so on. So it's been a lot of work, but it's been very interesting, very educational for me.
Sandy, I don't wanna put you on the spot, but I know a couple of us came to your committee, it seems like a year ago or so, I don't know when it was, but
Well,
it was quite a while ago, right? Just to talk about some things we thought might be considered. I do know at the time there was this a little bit of a discussion about, well, do we get outside help? When do we not get outside help? Who do we get? How do we do it? Has that gone anywhere as far as you're concerned? I mean, are you guys still looking for outside help, or are
as
you?
far as the outside help is concerned, it's been made very clear to us that we are not going to be looking to get any funding out of that article, for any outside help, whether we want it or not. We thought when this was presented to us by town administrator at our meeting, that the $75,000 was intended to support the work of our committee. That's not gonna happen. It's being spent on E-code, to do whatever E-code's doing, which I have no idea what they would have to do with revising the charter. They codify what we have, as far as I understand, but they're not in the business of consulting on charters. So, you have to take your question to the Board of Selectmen as far as, what their understanding was from the beginning, in the back of the tape of the meeting that night, that Joe Powers was in asking us if we wished to have a consultant, and we said yes, we did, and we left feeling that that was what the article was. That's not what, it wasn't stated that way at town meeting,
Right.
and it is not going to be used that way.
So could I just ask, and it's not our role to be the charter committee, trust me, but just because I think it has implications that are all over the place. Where is your committee going with whatever changes you might be looking at or proposing? I mean,
We're going all through the charter, we're doing our job as outlined in the charter, we are reviewing the charter. I've been given the enviable task of reviewing financial procedures. Everybody's been assigned certain parts of the charter, and we're just going through it. We've talked about town meeting, we've talked about the preamble, so we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing.
so do you expect at some point to make a report to the Board of Selectmen, or?
Absolutely.
Okay,
We made a report last year, but none of the recommendations we, put forth were even acknowledged at a meeting.
are we trying to get to a fix it all at once kind of thing, or piecemeal? Or,
That kind of depends.
okay,
I don't have an answer to that question right now.
okay.
As far as the committee is concerned, we're doing a review and looking at what the changes could be, how we can clarify things, clean up language, maybe add some new items, maybe revisit some old items. And one of the things that we recommended last year to the Board of Selectmen was to rework the timeline.
Yeah, for town meeting.
Which at the time we thought everybody really wanted to do, but apparently not. Because the timelines haven't been working, we know this. They haven't been working for your committee.
Right.
We talked about going back to the old timelines, which did work well for everybody for a lot of years, but it never made it to town meeting. However, irrespective of that, we will continue to do our job as we have been
Okay.
doing to do.
Well, thanks for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Peter, may I just,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just say one thing? I have the article from last year, and you made a wonderful change to it. You took out the charter, the hiring of an outside company wouldn't have anything to do with zoning, so it would specifically do charter and bylaw help. And I thought that was excellent. I expected the $75,000, that would sail right through, just like we're doing everything right now with the capital outlay. Everything's moving right along, but I thought you cleared that up quite a bit by deleting zoning bylaws, so it was very clear the $75,000 was charter and bylaws. And I don't understand why it hasn't moved forward, quite honestly.
Yeah, I don't either, so. Okay, all right. So, we can either delve into, if you'd like, and I'm willing to do this, take out of order, the FinCom charter considerations, Dana, you wanna talk about, since we have the charter people here, I mean,
Yeah,
why not? If you don't mind sitting a little bit and listening to this, or you're welcome to leave, whatever, and then we'll come back and do our other business, okay? All right, Dana.
all right, so what I gave you, the first page is just what the charter says about the finance committee in terms of forming the committee, terms of appointment and so forth, and
Dana,
what,
do you have 2 copies so I can read along? If not,
I can
no,
do mine.
you sure?
Yeah,
Here.
it's okay.
I'll just
I
look
thought I had an extra one somewhere, but I can't seem to.
And by the way, this discussion is not meant to be definitive as far as taking any action this evening. It's just to
You all
get
right?
this, yeah,
I
we're
can look
good.
here.
It's just to get this out there.
Right, this is
don't
just to,
mind.
to bring it up, because it's a lot to digest in one sitting, and I would expect that we're gonna all take it home and figure out if we wanna like it, or don't like it, or whatever. And then I put in the next sections of the charter, which have to do with all of the financial stuff, the budget process and so on and so forth. And then section 6, the capital outlay plan itself. I think Sandy and I wrote that a few years ago. Just dear to my heart, but yes. And then there's a section, chapter 2, that has to do with town meeting itself and the finance committee. Of course, we have a role in town meeting and what we do, so we'd want to look at that section, or at least be notified of any changes in that section coming up and so forth. And it really lays out what everybody is supposed to do in terms of that. And then I included the bylaws that support town meeting and what they're all about. I noticed in all of our bylaws, they still refer to the select board as the selectmen. That hasn't been fixed yet, so maybe that's coming up in another town meeting or something, but, right. So in any event, under the charter, you're a select board, but under the bylaws of the town, you're selectmen. Just throwing that out there.
That's the biggest problem we have.
No, there's many more, but it does lay out all the procedures and so forth, and then I didn't make copies just because I was running out of paper and stuff, but I will send to each of you right away the actual laws that, I mean, when it comes to the finance committee, just about everything that a finance committee has done to upset people has been taken to court at one point or another, and certain things have come to pass that are just now accepted as part of the law. And there are 5 or 6 laws that are specific to finance committees as to a town has to be over the $1 million threshold to establish a finance committee. Once they're established, they have certain rights and duties, and they're kind of laid out in state law. Now, the charter can supersede that law, but in our case, in some cases, we haven't done so, so they still, we go by state law on those things. So I'll send you those as well. It's only 5 or 6 pages or so. It will give you a complete picture.
And we will agenda the topic again next month,
Yeah,
and we can bring back any issues, concerns, comments
Right.
we have.
right.
So
That
that's your
seem
reading-
fair?
That's your reading assignment for now until November.
So,
Go ahead, Michelle.
yeah, so, does that mean someone is reviewing this?
Whole committee is.
Yeah, whole committee's
this man.
reviewing this charter and going to make recommendations for changes, if any. Is that how it works?
And they would love your input.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it,
Yeah, no, but I mean, that's part of the process.
I see.
We had an initial meeting, I don't know when it was, a long time ago, like 8, 9 months ago or something, when we came and just talked about it.
Oh, I missed that meeting, that's right,
Yeah.
I remember that.
And eventually, an article gets created, either adopting a brand new charter, or which has to be done by special legislation or whatever. No, it can be done at town meeting.
There are two, okay, charter revisions can cover pretty much anything except the form of government, the form of administration, and county. At the town meeting, what we're doing now is we're reviewing the charter. We're talking to the different committees about what's working, what's not working, what we'd like to see happen, what we'd like to see not happen. We will at some point make our recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. We'll put whatever they might agree with into a warrant as an article. Or they may just decide to do whatever they wanna do and put their own articles in, which I think is where we're headed. The town meeting votes at the town meeting, and then fast forward a year to the next annual town meeting, the ballot question.
Takes 2 years,
Wow.
basically.
It takes some time.
It's a very serious thing to get a charter change.
Which
Yes,
is why I've heard it said at the selectmen's table that I have said that the charter is deliberately vague, and who would write a vague charter that nobody can understand? I don't believe I've ever used the word vague in the context of charter. The charter is very broad, because you don't want to have to drill it down to such a fine point that it's gonna take 2 years to change. And yes, you can go through the legislative process, but the problem with that is, number one, going to the legislature really flies in the face of home rule.
Right.
As a principle. And number two, the legislature can change what we send them.
Right.
So do you want 350 other towns telling us how to write our charter? Probably not. So the town meeting and the ballot question is the truest way of dealing with it that, honors the whole concept of home rule. So back 2 years ago when, remember, you were wanting to put the entire wastewater bylaw into the charter.
Yeah.
And Angelo and I had quite a back and forth one night because you don't wanna do that. This is like a huge document.
Right.
And there are bound to be some things in it that don't work really well. You want to have to wait 2 years to change them. So the bones of the committee go into the charter, and the bylaw provides the details for how things function. So is that helpful?
And both take a 2/3 vote at town meeting to change bylaws or the charter.
And the charter can contradict state law, do something different than state law. It can't violate the constitution of the state, but it can have different ways of doing things than what state law provides. And the pecking order for our town is the charter is up here. The next thing you go to is your bylaws. And then if charter's silent, you go to your bylaws. If your bylaws are silent, then you go to state law.
As I say, we're not purposely trying to violate state law, just to put that out there, but
Right.
we are the
Well, no,
we
there
are
are
the town of
right.
Harwich.
There are questions that it's like why does the finance committee rule on every article, even if they're non-financial? But that's backed up by state law, and unless the charter says something different, that's what you go by.
And one of the questions we have for you is, do you feel you should necessarily have to put an opinion forth on every article? Do you really feel you want to get deeply into zoning? And that's a question we've asked, that I was asked to ask you.
I
Something
think
you can talk about.
I think on that topic in particular, as far as an opinion of the finance committee, or by the way, the opinion of anybody, if you have the time available, once things are locked down, to be able to really go through and digest and come up with well thought out opinions, I guess I would just say. I don't really have a topic with also planning on whatever. But if you're down to the last minute and it says, oh, you gotta put these 72 articles, by the way, and tomorrow you gotta have something written, it's like, okay, well, yeah, we think you ought to do this. I mean, that's not a good opinion. Right? So I think timing is a big part of it.
Well, on that note, one of the other things that we were discussing at our last meeting was the possibility of reinstating fall town meeting, as we did in the beginning, where you had your annual town meeting.
With zoning.
That primarily dealt with finance, although there could be other things.
Yeah.
And a fall town meeting that primarily dealt with zoning and bylaws.
Yeah.
That way, you're not having to deal with 75 topics all at one time, you can break them up.
The other problem is, you can see with the zoning things, for instance, you get a report on town meeting floor from the zoning board of appeals or something. And, I mean, this last go around, it was like, okay, yeah, we had a hearing last night, or we just held one 20 minutes ago. We shouldn't really do business that way, so if we had that in the fall, maybe it gives more time just to focus on that, and people have time to discuss it and know where, people are standing, maybe a couple weeks or a month or something before you get to the actual vote.
All these are questions we want to throw out.
Yep.
See how you feel about them.
Yep.
We're just trying to take in opinions and better ways of doing things.
Yeah, no, we appreciate the work you're doing, it's not fun, I mean.
Yeah,
I know
tedious
it's
is the
not
word that comes to.
Fun too. Almost as much fun as the FinCom.
But, since you had your name on the original charter, see, that's why you got the legacy.
Been there one time, a lifetime ago.
That's all
I just
good.
remember that in the 6 years I was a selectman, back when they were called selectmen,
You still aren't.
we
some
used to
places.
differ with the finance committee on many topics. And we would usually win every financial discussion the town meeting had. And in those days, we were more leaning towards reducing the budget from the finance committee request than increasing the budget. But we would win those arguments on town meeting floor. But when it came to the non-money articles, the Board of Selectmen would usually get their rear end handed to them on those articles. The finance committee would win those most of the time and resoundingly. So there was definitely a
It's not a
difference.
competition.
No, it's not a
Not a
competition, but
competition.
it's, trying to, when you talk about people weighing in on things, it's trying to figure out, which board you're gonna listen to when you're
Yeah.
sitting at town
Not
meeting.
a competition, Peter. It used to be a blood sport.
Yeah. But we used to all drive down to a local place afterwards and
It's not even the same
discuss
anymore.
it. Right, it's not
It's
the same anymore.
Okay,
But that's why I wanted to
Maybe-
bring that up about.
maybe we should have a selectmen's reunion someday, right?
Well,
That'd be fun.
I guess when Jewel retired was the last time we did a big photo with all the former select.
Yep, you're right. Okay, anything else on the charter topic for this evening?
That's what I had. Thank you for your answering
Okay.
questions.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We
Maybe
appreciate
see you
it.
Monday night.
You're welcome to hang around if you'd like to. We're done with charter stuff, I promise.
Doing anything riveting or fascinating?
It's always riveting and it's always fascinating, so. we're almost-
Website improvements, we're gonna talk
We're
about.
gonna talk about our
that.
website here in a minute, so that could be kind of exciting, right? Huh?
That's a good topic.
Well, it's a relevant topic, so, quite frankly, if you go in the townsman going through,
Yeah,
trying to bring things up to date, a lot of times you go to the website and you start looking at stuff, right? And you say, wait, why does that
at
say
least
this date,
48
and that's out
hours
of date,
before,
and this
I
and
don't
that?
know when it
Well,
will
our
get posted.
website is on the website of the Charter Review Committee up in the left-hand corner where it gives your schedule and when you meet and all that. Got the library trustees all. So yeah, we need to fix some things.
We're gonna have a report on it tonight.
Well, okay, so Michelle has been working hard to clean up our website. We're gonna get to your topic in a few minutes, Dan, because that factors into what goes on the website.
Mine's not gonna take very long.
We've seen a lot of correspondence, or I have, between you and Ellen, and you've gotten a lot done, so.
Yeah, so, I worked with Jamie, who was really, kind enough to,
You sure we call her webmaster?
yeah. And, so we did all the text updates that we had discussed in our last meeting.
Yeah.
If you recall what they were, they're just cleaning up some of that old language with the old dates that no longer made sense. We added the fact that volunteers, appointed for 3 years. We made sure all the memberships names were, and the titles were correct. We made you as the main contact if somebody wants to contact the finance committee, please.
I didn't have to call you.
Did you hear from anybody?
No.
So so all those changes have been completed. The only thing left to do is on the upper left-hand corner of the page, as you know, we have 3 links. And two of those documents were outdated. They were from 2021, I think.
Right.
One of them I have the new document, so I just have to link it with Jamie.
Yeah.
The second document, I'm not really sure why that document wasn't available. I think it was a timing issue, but I had to follow up with that document. I'm not exactly why there wasn't a new document for that, so I'm working on
You know what
that.
the title was, or is?
Kathleen probably was. No. One was the financial report. It's the second one, and then the third one's your document,
Yep.
which we're working
Which
on.
we've been working on now.
If you wanna wait a minute, I'll pull it out of my email and tell you what it is, but I don't have it right in front of
You
me.
could probably do that while we're talking about Dan's document.
Yeah,
Okay.
because, someone in the finance office did get back to me and told me, about, gave me status on that document. I just haven't gotten
Okay.
back.
Oh, is it the financial report, the audit?
Yeah, it had to do with the audit report.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it may have been an interim report, but it wasn't ready. It wasn't, something I posted.
Yep, all right, got it. Okay, so let's get to Dan's write-up.
So if it helps you wanna go to Jamie.
Linda is following up on that.
So we started out a couple of months ago, I think, with something that was on the website that I think caught our attention and said, oh, strategic plan. And it's like, wait a minute, Finance Committee has a strategic plan?
Right.
And we saw what was written there and we said, well, wait a minute, we're not in the business of writing a strategic plan. So it ended up becoming, under Dan's leadership, just a section that says, Town of Harwich, your Finance Committee, right? So it's intended to say, hey, for someone who clicks on it, this is the Finance Committee of Town of Harwich, this is what they do, blah, blah, right? So Dan, last month, you gave us a clean write-up that you passed around to everybody.
Which I updated.
Boy, is that this thing you sent me? This green thing?
No, I sent you this version, which is clean and properly formatted.
Oh, okay. So is this, you had sent me this the other day and said that your wife or somebody was gonna clean that up, so it was,
That's,
okay, all right. Thank goodness, all right.
but I didn't make copies.
Yeah, okay, so I think
We need to pay paper allowance. in
Yeah,
some
I
of
think what
these
happened in here was
members.
that the section that I think changed, from last month to this month, was the one we used to be called primary responsibility, which now you're calling what our primary responsibilities are.
Right.
And then you kept the first paragraph, I believe. Yep, as it was, just to keep everybody on track. But then you added this sentence that I had trouble with in here.
Oh,
You
yeah,
can read it.
yeah. This is the statement that you suggested.
No wonder,
Huh?
nothing.
I give a simple fee, but I did.
So Mark,
Listen to the words.
Mark sent me a paragraph from the Massachusetts
Yeah, the
Finance,
Massachusetts Finance Committee handbook.
yeah. And that's the paragraph that I added.
So just read it so everybody has it.
Sure.
Nobody's seen this document that you
No.
sent in.
No.
So,
It is generally agreed that finance committees may consider any matter they feel will have a fiscal impact on the town, as well as any other matters the committee feels are relevant. It may be reasonably argued that the committee may review any proposed action which could have a financial impact on the town. So I guess it opens up the opportunity for the committee to ask questions, raise issues with any matter that has a financial impact on the town.
My real problem was the beginning where it says generally agreed. It's like, really? Who generally agrees to this? I mean, I don't know. So I sort of struck
I
that.
had play with the verbiage as well, because I thought the version that Mark sent me was just like one run-on sentence.
Okay, so
I mean, yeah, if we want to change.
well, this is just me, because I saw it and had more than a look at it, right? So I was gonna change that to say the finance committee, let's be specific to Harwich. The finance committee may consider any matter they feel will have a fiscal impact on the town, as well as any other matters the committee feels are relevant, period. Not it may reasonably be argued. I don't wanna get into the reasonable stuff.
So take out that last sentence.
Yeah.
We're not reasonable at all.
And I wouldn't call it primary responsibilities, I just call it responsibilities.
But let me just move that sentence back up to the opening paragraph. And that'll just,
What I suggest you do is, I mean, I'll give you this. Why don't you rework that and send it to me, I'll send it to the committee.
okay,
And then if
Gotcha.
we're good with it, we'll just pass it on to Michelle
Yeah.
and she can
Okay.
incorporate it,
all right,
okay?
got it.
All right, we appreciate what you're doing, because what we started with was like
Yes,
unwieldy.
and we can,
And we never knew at all where that strategic
Yeah, what?
plan came
The
from.
information.
It didn't come
Okay.
from the finance committee.
Michelle is gonna
Yeah,
give us an update on her information.
Originally,
Yeah,
the strategic plan
When John.
must have been a year I was gone or something.
Yeah,
It was.
Okay.
when John Choria was the chair,
I understand.
yeah, he thought it'd be.
Now we got a new committee, so, now
so,
we have a new committee, so.
Right, oh, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so I went to the finance director accounting department and, requested the report. So I have the fiscal year 2022 financial report. So I have that will go in the first link.
Okay.
The second link we wanted had to do with the, schedule of expenditures report, and there's an internal control letter that was sent in place of this report. And apparently it says the town did not meet the 750K threshold to require a single audit. I've attached the internal control letter that was issued in its place. So it's a matter of whether or not we want to put that letter there at all, or we just want to take that link out because it doesn't apply.
Somebody else I can look at it.
Yeah.
Is that the management letter that the accounting firm provides?
Yeah.
The financial statements, yeah.
Yes, so
I would include it.
it's the internal control letter, yeah.
Let's read it.
Well, let's read it, because that
Yeah.
can be, an internal control letter can be substantially different than your understanding of
Yeah.
a traditional corporate management.
Yeah, yeah.
It said in fiscal 21, the town did have a SEFA, I don't know what that means, SEFA, with expenditures totaling 1.2 million. This included 665,000 for coronavirus relief fund and 446,000 for the assistance to firefighters grant. So apparently that's what took us over the million in 21, which required this review or audit.
Okay, let's see what it says.
Yeah, so I'll send that to you, and then if we want to include that letter, then we'll have those two documents, and then your document, and then we'll be done.
In any acronym, SF whatever, or whatever you're reading, you need to spell out what it means. I had someone the other day dealing with some folks in South Korea, right? And they're telling all about FEMA, and the people are like,
What's that?
"Oh, it's FEMA," you know?
I don't know what
Like, yeah, exactly.
I don't know what SEFA is, SEFA,
Well, we'll
maybe
figure it out.
Somebody
Charlie
must.
knows, yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Don't worry.
Yeah.
That stems from the Federal Single Audit Act, which was passed years ago.
Okay,
Yeah, that's the requirement that you're referring to is above a financial limit. The single audit is a requirement for having received federal funds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but just remember, when the general public is reading it, we need to make sure we're putting something out there they can understand, or at least have a reasonable expectation that they can read through it and say, oh yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, sure, as soon
You
as,
know, and acronyms they're not gonna understand.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so.
So I will look at that and then I'll send it.
Yeah,
Is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards?
Yes.
Yes, that's it.
okay, there you go.
So that's what we'll put, and it's a letter
Okay,
addressing that we haven't met that threshold.
Yeah,
And-
that
and-
schedule would be in the back of an audit package,
Okay,
that particular schedule that he's referencing.
okay.
and thank you for working with the selectman's office on, or town administrator's office on getting that stuff worked through. And
Yeah,
it seemed to be sort of seamless.
you're welcome. Everybody was
That's
very
good.
helpful, so, yeah,
You put the right person on the job.
thank you.
Good. Okay, any other business? Other business?
On new business?
Sure.
Okay, just two things. I had brought up, there's an Association of Town Finance Committee members on November 4th. If you're gonna go, you can register. Has everybody had the links for that to register if they wanna go?
I registered.
Okay, good. I'd just make a suggestion to the chairman, rather than each one of us individually going into to see Kathleen and trying to get reimbursed, if we could perhaps get a PO issued for however many people are gonna go, $65 times whoever many people go, and we can, therefore, instead of when we go to the meeting, writing a check, we can just give them a PO number, they can bill the town, then
That's cleaner.
then all you have to do is put in some mileage, but it will reduce the burden on the Kathleen, who's working a long day, thank you. The burden for her, all us trooping in there.
So
Just,
who's going? Just, I have a wedding that day, so I'm not going.
I'm a maybe.
So it might be 2.5.
Okay.
2.5.
All right, so it's up to, if you want to issue a PO.
I don't think I've ever put in for any reimbursements on any of those kind of trips, but
Why not?
That's you.
How's your chance?
So if you ride with him, tell him to get charged, and we'll pay your fee.
Especially with his F-350, his
Yeah,
gas. I just have a second thing, and it's probably a future agenda item about fees. I'll just give you an example. I have a mooring in Chatham where I pay a non-resident fee. And in Harwich, it's all one fee. Don't charge anything different from other towns. So it's just something to
So may I ask a
consider.
question, is some of that demand?
Pardon me?
Is some of that demand?
I don't think it's based on demand,
I mean, do
no.
we have moorings that are available readily?
Oh,
I don't know the answer to that.
The only reason I bring it up in terms of our fee schedule is just to see if Chatham is charging a non-resident fee, perhaps to look at that. So that may be more of a town administrator thing, I
Our
just
liaison
brought
is making notes on that topic right now.
it. So,
I think that's a great point.
Because they come before the selectmen to set fees.
I think
I have
that's
a
a
question,
great
I
point.
want to make a comment too. Go ahead.
you can
You
go
can
first.
go, oh, okay, I have a question. So I was looking at, I don't know where I read it, that somebody was talking about possibly increasing the fees for the dump. And so what came across my
You mean
mind?
the transfer station?
Transfer
That's,
station,
that's in my hand.
whatever.
It
you
was a
call
dump, it was a dump when the former selectmen here were all part of it.
Transfer
But we made
station.
it a capped landfill and we decided to take stuff away.
It's still the dump.
It's still the
It's
It is still a dump to me.
I worked there for 5 years, it still smells the same.
So one thing that crossed my mind is that I thought to myself, well, I'm a Harwich resident, right? We had all this free cash last year, and here we are and we spent that free cash on other stuff. And, all the things that we talked about that we spent it on. And I thought to myself, well, wouldn't it have been nice if we didn't spend all that free cash and we put some towards defraying some of this cost, because people are getting so hurt by inflation. I mean, the cost of everything's going up. So I just wondered how that plays out, do we ever talk about that?
I would,
Well,
my druthers,
yeah,
if we get into this free cash awash again this year, and start talking about how you give it back to the taxpayers as opposed to worrying about how much I'm paying at the dump, quite frankly, because I think it's a bargain the number of times I go to the dump, but I mean, that's a different story. But I think it's time to start thinking about, we can't be constantly in this thing where we're shedding off this kind of free cash. It's like, wait a minute, why do we have free cash? Well, we must have it because we're overcharging people for living here. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right?
Well, exactly, so whether or not you use that extra money for the dump, or, you know, it's money in your pocket, it's my point, so,
And if your tax bill went down $200 a year, you'd probably be happy, or happier,
yeah.
right? I'm not making that up, but I
Yeah,
mean, that's,
it just happened to be because I look at, you know, transfer station fees is, those things pop out at me, I'm like,
Yep.
you know, it's cheaper to go to the beach all summer than
Right.
take my stuff to the transfer station. But to me, that's a heavy fee, so I know you don't think it is, but I guess I probably,
no, but you have to realize when you take things to the dump, somebody has to do something with it. If you go to the beach and park there,
yeah,
you're going on the sand, and somebody has to clean
Yeah.
the sand too also. But I think there's more of a cost associated with the activity of
Yeah.
the transfer station than there is going to the beach.
If you
Right.
take your trash to the beach, they have to pay the fine. So.
They'll let the seagulls take it, and they'll take it to the landfill, so it's
Or to
pretty
Chatham, one of the
good.
other.
All right,
Yeah.
Dana.
You talked about some of the old ways we used to do things. A lot of these fees used to be in the bylaws of the town and subject to town meeting approval for changes. Have you discussed any of that in your group? I know it's transferred to the Board of Selectmen.
Just while you're talking about that, I mean, I think Peter just said it. You know, we had a place in Florida. The county assessed $250 a year for every household for trash pickup, and they pick up everything. Put a
Right.
couch out on the curb, and there'll be somebody with a truck coming along. Every time we increase dump fees, we increase the cost of picking it up out of those now. So,
As someone who used to pick it up, I
Yeah.
remember that.
yeah, I mean, the more you charge, the more you get. I mean, we used to have to take stuff out of the back of the track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People leave appliances. out
It's got a
there.
trash topic, I know.
We end up paying for them, yeah, go ahead.
This isn't specifically have trash, but, fees like dump fee or your water fees, you can do different things, to fund the increase in cost out of other funds and keep the rate that you're charging public at a certain point, but then, you're 4 or 5 years down the road and you run out of places to pull funds from, and all of a sudden you need to cover the cost, and instead of every year doing $1 increase, you're all of a sudden faced with having to raise it $10 or $15, and what typically happens is a large public outcry, and either
There we are.
That's our
Perfect house.
There's your large public
Either
outcry.
the selectmen have the stomach to weather that, and they increase the fees so they can pay for the service, or they look in the budget and find someplace else to take it, which means something else isn't getting funded.
Yeah.
So it's important, if it's a fee-for-service thing, and there's costs to that service, that,
You keep up with that.
you keep up with that, rather than sort of kicking it down the road.
Okay, Dan had it.
Does anybody have any idea how much the garbage disposal, like Nauset disposal and others like that, how much they charge?
They charge per barrel, I know that, or per container,
Okay,
but I don't know how much for what.
interesting to do a compare and contrast.
It's about $250 to $300 a month for,
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
for like 2 pickups a week.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think one pickup a week's like 225, 250.
But there's a lot of drive time between pickups for that.
Well, we're kind of getting off topic a little bit, but
Yeah.
going to the dump is like a social thing around here. I mean, really.
Guess not.
I think how many people you meet at the dump, right?
And it is a dump, because when we announce we're going to the dump, our 3 dogs go insane. If we say we're going to the transfer station, they go, what?
You smart dogs.
I know that for the past several years, and this is through the director of the department, he's let the profits in the commercial end of things, the construction debris and the trash, the commercial trash, when those haulers like Nauset Disposal bring it into us, they pay a rate per ton. That fee has gone up every year for years, and that excess cash has helped keep the residential fee down, the cost of residence disposal. But it has you explained, it's come to a head now where both can't keep going. One can't stay level while the others keep going up. It's come to a point where that can't go up anymore, so something's gotta happen on the trash side. And I think that's where the discussion is with the selectmen and the
Yeah.
director.
Yeah, if I may, I think your question's a valid one, and I think that is not the only thing that's being looked at. I think that's probably one of the last things that we're looking at. But there's, as you said, the amount of increase for all the operation of the transfer station is becoming, it's pretty incredible. It's eye-opening to me. So we have to figure out a way to make it up. But, you know, that's not on the table right now.
It's a $4 million annual operation.
It's yeah.
All right, now we solved that problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just
I
while
didn't know it was
everybody's
gonna
here,
go like that.
we on the path for getting free cash certified?
That's another question he was just about to write down.
Like when the expectation might be?
I will get that to you very soon.
There's usually an estimate before
Whatever, but I mean,
certification. The music's right in time with this
Yeah, I don't have
tension.
I wouldn't expect you would, I'm
I will
just,
get you an answer.
it's just finance committee always likes to know, be
Yeah,
like,
of
be the
course.
first ones to know, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
How much free cash we got?
Instead of last.
Yep.
And by the way, if it's as large as it was last year,
Look out.
we need to get together and figure out what the heck we're doing.
100%.
You just
Yeah.
can't keep going that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't keep going that way. All right, anything else? All right, our next meeting, we're gonna get back to our regular schedule next
Okay,
month,
yeah.
so it'll be what, the second Thursday in November,
I have it set up at.
6 o'clock over in the small
Right,
meeting
and
room.
I've got the calendar filled in for that
Okay.
room, so.
All right, good.
So that's November 2nd,
No,
The second.
the
Second.
second Thursday.
Second Thursday.
the 9th. November 9th.
We'll have a report on our trip to the wilds of Western Mass.
There you go.
Oh, so,
And I apologize for being late, I bring greetings from the Griffin Room. I went there first.
So did Dana and I.
Yeah, we were there.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for
Mark,
participating.
I'll let you know if I'm gonna go.
We both showed up at the same time.
I wanna go,
Looked
but
at each
it's
other.
kinda hairy for me.